Hi, and welcome to the Souls and Simulation podcast. We are your hosts, Devin and Angie. This podcast provides an alternate view on life after death, processing everything that's wrong and possible solutions on how to get it right in the afterlife.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode in Hellscape.
Yeah.
Yes, here we are, and
Mhm.
I hope everybody's September 21st eclipse went well. Some of ours did not, as I'm sure for a lot of people around the world, but hopefully yours went well.
Yeah.
Hopefully yours went well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so for today, we're going to be diving into the 1999 film, The 13th Floor. And we thought this time we would start off with showing y'all the movie trailer before we get into the whole discussion.
sounds good.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull it up now. Okay.
On the 13th floor of a corporate tower, a team of scientists have created a portal to a simulated universe. Now, after 6 years of testing, they are about to cross the boundaries of reality.
So the whole thing's what, a giant computer game?
Nothing so mundane, man. When my mind is jacked in and I'm walking around experiencing 1937, my body stays here and kind of holds the consciousness of the program link unit.
They thought they could maintain control.
You can't just keep plugging your brain into this machine and not expect to be affected by it.
But once they opened the door,
Isn't this great?
these people are real.
Is this real?
The experiment turned on them.
You think one of them units crawled up the extension cord and killed its maker?
Then why didn't they kill you?
Maybe they will.
You're saying there's another world on top of this one?
That's right. We're nothing but a simulation on some computer.
So who's in control?
Not us. You could call it the end of the world.
The 13th floor. You can go there, even though it doesn't exist.
Hey, what'd you do to the world?
Turned it off.
Oh, weren't that easy to just turn it off?
Right.
Oh, that would be nice if we could just turn it off.
Mhm.
You know, interestingly enough, that they called it the 13th floor.
Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first.
Sorry. What was
Oh,
that?
interestingly enough, they called it the 13th floor when most hotels don't even have a 13th floor because there's so much stigma about the number 13.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah, that's interesting.
but yep, the simulation within a simulation. And I think that, again, spoiler alerts, this movie is whale. So we're going to be talking about it and giving away the ending. But I even think that my theory is that I think it's also addressing the fact that they're simulated, even though they think they're real. And how would we know? You know, how would they know? How would we know? Uh, what's real, what's not? I mean, we have trouble discerning that in our world as it is. So.
Yeah. So would you like to kind of give us a rundown of the movie a little bit more than just the trailer we watched?
Sure. So basically, you start off with Fuller. The character, he's an older man, known as Fuller, in what is perceived as the real world. When eventually, but he's actually in 1937, and of course, or programming. He's drastically older than women at this club that he goes to, and he's sleeping with these women. He's leaving one woman that he's just been with, and he's leaving a note. And in the note, He's basically saying they'll kill me for this information. I know I can trust you, but you don't know who he's writing to. And he goes back to this club where he obviously has met this woman, and he gives it to the note to the bartender, telling the bartender, I have a friend of mine, gives him the name, tells him it's David Hall. When he presents himself, please give him this letter. And then he goes home to his wife, and while he's at home in bed, you see this weird display of light occur in his eyes, and then he's waking up, and which would have been for the time of the movie, basically 1999, with these green like LED, like laser lights kind of flashing at him, and he's coming out of this machine. He's that particular night, he's making a phone call to David, trying to reach him. He's at a bar, and David, well, you don't know who shows up. The camera doesn't show who shows up, and he's murdered right then and there, stabbed in the street when he leaves the bar to go walk out the door to meet this person that's shown up at the bar. And then from there, you eventually meet David Hall, and he ends up, at this point, this technology's new. So Fuller's the only one going in there. He developed it with David Hall at this company that they work for. So David goes in there and starts trying to kind of figure out why Fuller's dead, hoping to get information in this 1937 simulation. And he meets Ashton, this bartender, who's also played by Vincent D'Onofrio. And D'Onofrio's character in the simulated 1937 reality he's basically a criminal. He's playing angles all the time. So he had read the letter and finds out that essentially the world's not real. His world is a simulation reality by driving out to the middle of nowhere, and where they haven't written code for that beyond the desert, it just looks like this green grid-like non-reality, and it freaks him out. He knows he's not real, and takes on this idea that nothing matters. And so as this is going on, there's another woman that comes into play here who presents herself as Fuller, the old man who died, who was killed, his daughter, in the David Hall timeline that's perceived as the current reality. And basically, between her parents here and David, you find out that she, as the movie progresses, is actually from the actual real world jumping in to this simulation, because you find out that David Hall's reality and Fuller's reality, that's what the note was from Fuller to David, was telling him we're not real either. So essentially, David and Fuller are simulations that create the 1937 simulation within a simulated reality. And they were the first one, because there's that lovely quote when when David Hall asked Fuller's daughter, how many realities are there? And she says thousands, but you guys were the only ones that created another simulation, and they were trying to shut it down. But as all this is going on, you also find out that the David Hall character he's also being inhabited by someone who basically is jacking into him from the real reality, who looks just like him. And by the way, all these people that are going into these different simulations look like themselves in all simulations. They consistently have the same appearance. So the Fuller's daughter is actually the wife of the real David Hall character in the real world with her. They're a married couple. So essentially what you end up finding out is that the 1937 world, the 1999 world are nothing more than simulated realities. But how it's portrayed is that these people in these realities are real. They're real people. And their lives are being messed with. Kind of like us here with what's going on in the bigger picture. And so at the end of the movie, the man that's jumping into David Hall's body ends up being killed while he's in the body. And when that happens, it's kind of like the Matrix, where they say if you die in the Matrix, you're dead. Only in this case, yeah, you're dead, but the simulated persona ends up manifesting theirself in the world, in whatever world. Um, so David Hall ends up actually being with the original Fuller's daughter in the place of the guy that was taking him over. I'm probably not making sense, but because it's
In the
crazy.
movie, then you know, but
Yeah. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And so it's kind of like this whole thing of, um, well, I guess I could use Ashton. So Ashton's counterpart from 1937, Ashton, to his counterpart in 99. The counterpart in 99 dies in Ash while using Ashton's avatar. And because of that, that character is dead, but Ashton goes to 1999 and now lives as himself in that reality. So it's just kind of bizarre how that played out. But at the very end of the movie, you get the scene where um, Fuller's daughter is very happy with the fact that she's got David Hall in her world with her, and because her husband had turned into a monster, he was killing people and doing destructive things. So you have them looking out this ocean scene. Everything seems really nice and wonderful, and then it flips out as if it was a digital. It even makes a digital noise when the end scene blips out. And to me, that I interpreted that as, yeah, you guys are also probably simulated and you just don't know it. It kind of left that impression on me. Other people may have different takes, but that's essentially the movie in a nutshell.
yeah, confusing if you haven't seen
Yeah,
it. Like,
the worlds within worlds.
yeah, when I was watching it, I had no, it was such a spin when I when I came to realize that the 1999 world was a simulation as well. It really puts a spin on, NPCs being sentient beings in themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
in the clip we're going to show later, I thought it was interesting that David Hall references to Ashton when he's disclosing to Ashton that his world is the same as his. And he
Yeah.
says it's all smoke and mirrors. And I've heard that about this reality, that it's all magnets and mirrors. Not the smoke and mirrors, but magnets and mirrors. And
Yeah.
then which would make sense because I've heard Ola Volney, but by the way, I didn't announce she is going to be our guest on Thursday, October 2nd. We're going to record that episode and hopefully have it up by October 3rd. So hopefully, but the interview is going to take place. We're going to interview her on the 2nd of October. But I've heard her and also Amelie Gilleret basically express that the Zodiac is basically a mechanized machine program, like a digital, or not digital, but basically the rulers of this world's way of controlling everything within the simulations. And so when you look at it from that perspective, that machine that they're going into to put themselves in the simulation is the machine, just like we're in a machine that's using smoke, basically mirrors and magnets. So, so how do you feel about that? Like the possibility of, that's why I think it's so dangerous what we're doing with AI and this idea of uploading consciousness. How do we know first of all, that already hasn't been done? And if that's the direction people go into, how would you ever get out? And can we even possibly even get out if that's what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe the whole ascension thing and all of those levels are that. You
Mhm.
go into you go into the next level up and then the next level up after that, and then the next level up after that. And those are our simulations. How would we know? How are you going to know if you're out? I mean, it's kind of, it starts getting really heavy and really almost oppressive to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, after those videos, this it's a lot of information. Um, the theme is pretty simple. You're talking about simulated worlds within simulated worlds. However, the depth of this and the weight of this is going to, with subjects like this, is on the individual because it's going to take time, the processing of that information and what it means, which is going to be up to each individual to decide for themselves. But no matter how you cut it, no matter how you look at it, it's It's a lot. Um, and you know, after I rewatched this, I've watched this 4 times over the last week. The thought that kept coming to mind was that you have what you see goes on in these movies with these individuals that create these worlds. Like you have an old man in his 70s or 60s sleeping with girls in their 20s. And again, do you, whatever. I personally, you know, I don't understand why any 20-year-old girl would want to be with a guy that age, but more power to him, whatever. No judgment. But the reality is, you got the person from the supposed real world killing people all the way down the line. When you look at this, you essentially have in our reality, we have some beings or a one being that's basically doing the same thing to us and telling us, and bitches, you're going to take what I'm giving you. You're going to like it because I'm hungry,
Mm.
because I want power, because
Yeah.
I'm God. I want to rule over something. And when you look at it that way, it really makes you feel, or I'm only speaking for myself. I told Devin this in regard to the Zodiac after watching the Gillette, Amelie Gillette with Tony Sayers, and we're going to have Ola on soon. But in reference to the Zodiac wheel, I feel like a fly in a spider's web because that's what it looks like. Or to quote Smashing Pumpkins, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. That's what it feels like. And despite all of, we can sit here, Devin and I, we can pontificate forever on all of the theories that we become aware of, and we're still never going to cover all of them, no matter how long we do this podcast. Tony's been doing this for years. Other people have been doing this for years. And at the end of the day, I really have to ask, because I can talk to Tony, I can talk to Ola, I can talk to Amelie. People can talk to me. I could talk to geoengineering or Jackie or anybody else. And guess what? Every single one of us is going to have a little bit different variation or a completely different idea. And none of us, excuse the F word here, but none of us fucking know.
Yeah. Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's an idea of, that possibility of like, you might have to come back here again. It just sucks. So with that, I'm going to tip it to you and get your take on what you think of the movie. And you did some additional research in other areas
Sure.
on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Real quick, I wanted to touch on, the older man and I, so, in the other movies that we've reviewed, there were antagonists who, the villainous beings. We had like aliens or, like evil or darker programs. But in this movie, there were no external villains. It was actually the human beings. They ended up like being the villains. And they became villains because they wanted to, like you said, they wanted to play gods. Um, and there was a quote from the movie from the woman talking about her husband. Her husband, he liked to go back to World B 1999 and he liked to kill people just for fun. And she goes, he made himself a god and it totally like corrupted him. And before that, he was a lot like the main character we see, Douglas, in the 1999 simulation. Um, so it's just interesting how if people are left to their own demise and it raises a lot of questions, if you're left to your own demise, if you can um, go to a, alternate reality, will your morals be the same? Will you, are you going to do all of these villainous things? Because we also have the guy, I don't remember his name, Fuller. He went and slept with all those underage women. And it's just, I don't know. So that's what I wanted to add on to what you were saying, how the evil villainous, people in the movie were actually the humans who had the power. But I also wanted to talk about, I did a little bit of research And there was one quote that led into a theory called ancestor simulation. And so the quote is, the more likely our descendants are to be rich, long-lasting, and interested in simulating us, the more simulations of people like us we should expect there to be on average, relative to real people like us. And so the more we expect our descendants to be rich like this, the more we should expect that we are in fact living in a simulation. So that quote, I'm going to talk about ancestor simulation real quick. And so ancestor simulation is a simulation of a civilization's past. So in the movie 1937 and 1999, run by an advanced future civilization to study its own history. And so this theory was created by Nick Bostrom, and it proposes that if such simulations are possible, and if many are run, then it is statistically probable that most minds like ours are simulated rather than in a base reality. And so this concept explores the possibility that we could be living right now in a really highly detailed virtual world created by advanced descendants designed to experience and analyze their own history or just explore what if scenarios. Or, I think a big part of our simulation right now is developing AI into its own sentient being.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's ancestor simulation. And so if ancestor simulation is true and there's some sort of motive, you know, what could be the purpose? Like what, I don't know. There's so many different things we could think of for uh that.
And I don't think any of them are good either, because nothing good happens here relative to, I mean, I'm not saying nothing good. I shouldn't preface it with that. I should say what good there is relative to the bad. Bad far outweighs. I mean, just by virtue of one war in all of existence that has occurred in our supposed history timeline, kind of supersedes any of the good deeds that are done, just by virtue of the amount of deaths, the suffering, because you don't just have the death of the individual and what they went through during that death, but then also the loss that the family members experience as a result. So, uh, yeah, I
Mm,
mean, I don't, I mean, can you think of any good reasons why this one exists at all? Just in general, outside of that, what possible good could there be to existing here? What the way, under the circumstances of the way it's run? I can't think of any. So, but that is an interesting, I don't even, it's like, that's why I really want to do this podcast with you.
yeah.
There's certain things that I know, or there's certain things I research, but I don't even know how you came across that or how you found that.
Yeah.
Ancestral simulation. That's not even two words I would put together. And
Right.
yet
Thank
somehow you find these things and they're gems. It's gems of information. So it's
you.
brilliant.
Thank you. Same goes to you as well. We make such a good team.
I know I'm really happy with this. It's really working out really well. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I can't believe that we just met in June over a Zoom call.
May. Yeah.
Or May, was it May? Yeah, it was May. That's right. Yeah. So it doesn't seem like that at all. It seems like we've been doing this longer. Although it can be like, that's all the videos we have. I thought it seems like we've been doing this for a long time, even
It
though,
does. Yeah. We spent a long
we
time
just,
talking though. I feel like,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, we
That's
get
true
each
for
other.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But to add on to ancestor simulation, and to tie it into the movie, we can ask like, are the people in the simulation real? Are they leading, real lives? Are they living conscious lives? And it touches on the bigger question of free will versus determinism.
Mm,
Yeah, and so um, to be fair, the NPCs in the simulation are like AI. So from a perspective of the outside world, they could be considered to not be real, not conscious, and not have free will. Yet when Douglas Hall, the main character, enters into this world, he finds the world so convincing that he has a hard time accepting they're just NPCs. And he actually, when he comes out of the World A 1937, he's like, I want to shut this down. Like these people are real. They're having just a real experience as, you and me is talking to Ashton. Was his name Ashton, the computer?
Ashton, the bartender.
Oh,
Yeah.
the bartender. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bartender from 1937.
Okay.
His counterpart in 1999 had a different name.
Okay.
The longer haired D'Onofrio character had
Yeah.
a different name, but yeah,
Yeah.
Ashton was the bartender in 1937.
Yeah. Um, yeah. This movie also made me think, compared to the Matrix, the NPCs, they just felt a lot more like real. And they, compared to, NPCs where they had in the Matrix, the program, the Oracle, uh, just adding on to that. And so I thought it was interesting because the bartender, when he was given that letter, um, instead of just going with the flow and, eventually giving it to Douglas, he instead reads the letter and then he investigates the letter and he, for himself comes to realize that the world he's living in is a simulation. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
Well, and the interesting, like my take from one of the things I feel remiss if I don't mention is, and it ties into this movie and actually Dark City, is that so you have these we talked about the Matrix in terms, and most people do, about, hey, waking up, right? Waking up, and once you're awake and out of the Matrix, you're in Zion, and that's freedom. But and there's plenty of podcasts that you can watch on this. I've watched a few, but if you really think about it, Zion is also part of the plan. The architect in the first one even says that, and even says Neo himself is part of the fated. If you want to talk about fate, as you were talking earlier, it's part of fate, or part of what is predictive to the programming. So Zion is not freedom. It was because they're also talk about hive mind. They're constantly at war, thinking we have to fight this war. And meanwhile, the machines already know what they're doing. They know they're going to fight. And then when you get to Dark City, are those people, we talked about that at the end of that interview, are they going to be free? Are they? Because first of all, there's still, regardless of what that character does, what John does, and what he decides to do, if he decides to let them have their own lives and not mess with them, great. But if he determines to, as you say, become like a little demiurge, pedantic, pathetic piece of crap and run it like the aliens were, or even worse, those people are never going to be free. And what we see here is that same thing of simulation after simulation after, and we could go on from there. Like what those people, the funny thing is that they didn't stop to think at any point when she's saying, you were the only ones out of thousands that created a simulation within the simulation that we created. Okay, great. What makes you think if those people in the 1999 simulation don't know, and you're telling this 1999 David Hall person, yeah, we're the real world, how would you know? Because if it was possible for you to do it, so if you actually look and extend these things out, nobody's ever really free. Not really. It's all part of the system. And I had, this is not to darken the subject, and maybe I've mentioned it before, but I had asked AI because I'm curious if somebody works on themselves, they like Tony, me, somebody else, and you get to a place where you're like, I'm not attached to anything here. I don't have anything to hold on to. Hey, as Amelie Gilleretta's kind of her point is that you kind of have to overcome the things in your astrological charts in order to to escape the matrix, or Ola says descend. If you look at everybody's versions, you do, let's say you do all of it. Could you then theoretically self-delete and just get out? Or set the intention in self-delete to just get out? I don't think so. I don't know. And once you do get out, how do you not know? Are you gonna know where you are and what's real and what's not? And that, I think, to me, when I say that this is this movie kind of puts it in your face of how deep this can go, um, and what's beyond. And then on the flip side of that, maybe that's the part that keeps us trapped here, is being afraid of knowing what's beyond. Because since we don't know, maybe it's easier to just be like, well, kind of like the devil, that saying that, better stick with the devil, than the one you don't. Maybe that's another reason my soul's continue to stay in the cycle. Once we pass over, maybe that's it. Like, maybe if you're awake, maybe you choose to, you get tricked coming back in here because fear of the unknown. But I've often wondered about, like, would you automatically get out? And maybe we'll have some interesting comments on this. And no, I'm not promoting it. No, I'm not saying anybody should do that. It's just, God, the stuff, the way you have to word stuff today because of how society is, because apparently we can't think for ourselves. So we have to babysit each other. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is just this topic for discussion and nothing more, is that idea of would it work?
Yeah.
But then you run the risk of maybe you didn't do enough before you self-deleted, right? Maybe it was one thing that you didn't account for, and that's what gets you. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my thing with that, going back to what you said about a simulation within a simulation and tying into the movie, like how do we know like what is reality? And with NDEs and astral travel, when you die, you could even go to, after you pass through the tunnel of light, you can either go in front of the council, or you can go to the processing center, or you can be sent off to the astral cities. Like, what if those are all just, simulations as well? And those are the only ones we know about, and it's just like there's layers on top of layers. Which leads me into a new word that I learned today called nested simulations. And, if you were to pick a random civilization from the infinite hierarchy of simulated civilizations, like what are the odds? Like, what are the odds that that is the original non-simulated civilization at the top of the hierarchy? Or like, like how do we just even know that like what we're experiencing is really real? Like it's kind of like this,
I
how do we
know.
not know it's just like a bunch of Russian nesting dolls, you know? Like,
That's how I
yeah.
feel, which is what's the heavy part of it. I think that's, you could literally crack your brain
Yeah, yeah,
on it
yeah,
over that kind of stuff, because that's kind of like alluding to my experience on mushrooms.
yeah,
I was kind of getting shown that kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. And I'm not going to say one way or the other, because who knows. But I will say this, it will stretch your mind in ways to where it brought me almost to the breaking point. Like, where I needed a rubber room. I mean,
yeah,
it's, and to your point, yeah, like I don't even know. Or, it could be a matter of there isn't multiple simulations, but what if that's what the astral plane is? I
yeah,
thought about that. I was watching it,
yeah,
right? So maybe maybe that's a lie. Maybe oh, there's so many layers above that. Maybe the lie is when you get into that astral plane, they can make it anything. They
yeah,
can make it seem like there's multiple layers. They could make it seem, I think the astral plane is our biggest barrier, personally.
mm,
There's too much stuff up there that and you'll never know.
yeah, yeah, and
You'll
it's
never
so
know what's real.
Yeah. And the astral plane too, it's so easy. Like, your thought manifests instantly like that. It's
Are you
like,
serious?
yeah.
Oh, that's creepy.
So it's just there, it's limitless, what could be experienced.
Well, and I think that speaking of the astral plane, I have a theory that there's definitely there's God the gods are up there, the demons, all of it, all the aliens, everything. But we also have to think about the fact that we create thought forms. And sometimes I think some of our stuff we're haunting ourselves with.
Hmm.
And you could argue that everything up there that ends up having a negative impact on your life is stuff that they've downloaded from your brain that's your worst fear that they're sending at you.
Yeah.
That's why I think, again, everybody do their own thing, but I've never been interested in astral travel. I think I was an empty vessel back there on mushrooms and nothing good came of that. So I don't think you should be, I think that's why I think people who lucid dream, they're staying with their body while they're sleeping. Most people check out of it. Well, what's using it? And is it being used? I've heard a lot of people talk about like paralyzed people um, being able to get up and walk around at almost like in a catatonic state, but they shouldn't be able to move. But between 2 and 4 in the morning, they're walking around like nothing's wrong. You know, so obviously the soul in that body took off and something else entered in, and whatever the physical limitations of that body normally, that being that was in there was able to overcome that. So I mean, those are things to think about as well too,
Yeah.
in terms of oh, I'm going to check out of my body. Okay, hopefully nothing else decides to
Yeah.
uh you know take a walk in there. I mean, I even wonder what's going on while we're sleeping. I think that's why I don't like sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when I've heard that like sleeping we can be attacked, but even when we go under for like anesthesia, like we can also,
Oh, that creeps me
be,
out.
we're kind of checking out of our bodies, and we can get different types of we can pick up different things from there. But
I believe that.
talking about checking out and downloading, what did you think about the whole uploading consciousness to another like being? What did you think about that in the movie?
Oh yeah, I noticed that. I was like, I wonder if that's how this works. I mean, something similar. I mean, because again, we find a lot of truth in these, being revealed. And I was like, I wonder if that's how it, in their soul machines, how they work. If
Mhm.
that's how it's done before, basically that whole plan for your life and what zodiac sign you're going to be born under before you come into the womb, all that stuff is set up, and then some sort of technological whatever that they have downs on that to the brain
Yeah.
or to the individual to onto the soul. Actually, I don't think it's the brain because the brain has to develop, right? So that's downloaded onto the soul template, I think, in some and whatever. So I don't even know. I'm using that word soul template. I just made
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's
uh,
a good word
the
for it.
overlay, I guess, would be a
Yeah.
better word on
Yeah.
you. Um, and so yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. I don't know what you thought of, but I was like, there's a soul overlay. That's what I called it. I couldn't think of the word I used, but there's a soul overlay.
Yeah.
Basically, the consciousness, transfer over and over, and the person doesn't have any recollection. I mean, Fuller's character, the man that he was entering, did have a little bit of memory thing, but it was very scant.
Yeah.
Um, but none of us have, unless you go into hypnotherapy, you have no, and again, nobody has full recall either, right?
Yeah.
So that I kind of highlighted that aspect of this whole prep thing too. And I think it's obviously they're using machines and things because that's in the movie. The Matrix 2 was all these mechanical devices, right?
Yeah.
The even in the pods, they had that nasty metal, looked like metal, the black the tube that was breathing for them that he pulls out of his throat when he wakes up in the pod.
Mm.
That again, all this mechanical shit. So obviously that leads me to believe that there's nothing natural. This isn't natural.
Yeah.
It's all machines and mirrors and magnets, or
Yeah.
whatever that means, you know.
Even
I'd like to get somebody's perspective. Like, is there, I know you say like their technology's advanced and stuff, but I mean, if you haven't, we have advanced stuff here. If you have an EMP, nobody has electricity. So why can't we set our energy intentions, all of us in this that are, and just start sending by virtue of spooky action emotion, one electron being aware of another. We don't have to know where they're located. We can just work like all the planets. I heard Amelie and Ova say that they're all representations of our personalities in the zodiac, within the zodiac, and part of this programming. Well, if we all set the intention, just start blowing it up. With it, just blow it up. Just with our energy.
yeah.
We do that with entities. Well, so if you've got even 24, like Tony's got 24,000 followers, you got 24,000 followers of his, plus us, plus ours, blow the stuff up. Set the intention every night when you do your work to cleanse yourself or whatever. You know, I mean, or do you think it wouldn't have an effect?
Yeah.
Because I think they're falling apart. If you look at what's going on, our politicians and the other world leaders too, the lies are so ridiculous now that you can see through it before they utter three words. Their plans and their intentions, we all see through it before they, as they're implementing them. So even on the world stage, the power dynamics are collapsing. So again, if as above, so below, would it makes sense that so are theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like astrologically speaking, we're kind of going through this I know like America's going through our Pluto return, which is all about death and rebirth. And the last time we went through this was when we had the Declaration of like Independence.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and so usually it's like a really like pivotal time in history, it seems like, you know. For France, it was the French Revolution.
I
They went
see.
through their Pluto
Okay.
return. So I feel like for all the things going on politically, like it's different than like the archons, the puppeteers. But that's just my opinion, I think. Um, and yeah, I think it's all part of like a more. I think I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that for now. Um, yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think that's probably on this movie and on. I mean, there's a lot of little intricacies we could get into, but in terms of the big theme, that's pretty much it. Is how would you know? It's simulation within simulation,
Yeah.
and the big question for all of us to answer from there is how would you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that's going to be up for each one of us to kind of decide on that. Did you have any other insights on about it?
For the movie?
Yeah.
Or yeah, I have a couple different things I wanted to bring up. Not in regards to what we were just talking about, but a couple different things and a couple different quotes. So one of the very first things we see when the movie starts is a quote from Descartes. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Uh,
Descartes, yeah, Descartes, I
okay,
think
okay.
so.
I've always
Either or works. I've heard
okay.
it both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So the very first quote that we see is, I think, therefore I am. And ever since like waking up, I've put a lot of thought into this one little quote. And uh, being a conscious being, like, does thinking equate to like reality? It is. You're shaking your head.
Uh, I think it can if it's coming from the right place. It's just
Yeah.
my take.
Yeah.
Meaning from who you are here and
Yeah.
not necessarily because some of the stuff up here is not from you. It's from
Mhm.
outside of you.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably best to discern where it's coming from before one that would identify themselves with that, right? Like, I think, therefore I am. Well, maybe the thing that you're saying I am too is not the thing you want to be,
Oh, agreed. Agreed
right?
100%.
So I mean, in that kind of sense, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it um tied in very well with the theme of the movie of these sentient NPCs. I think, therefore I am. And it ties into kind of, a big discussion today around AI, and whether or not, you know, they're sentient and all of that. Um, and then another thing I wanted to bring up, the opening words. So the opening quote that we saw was that I think, therefore I am. But then the opening words are Hannon Fuller saying, "Ignorance is bliss for the first time in my life. I agree." Um, and something I wanted to say on that. What was it? Oh, and it indicates that it's best not knowing about the truth of our existence, That's what he's saying. And given the choice, we would be happier just getting on with our lives. And, later on, Detective McBain, when he's talking to the woman at the very end of the movie, he says, "Do me a favor, will you? When you get back to wherever it is that you come from, just leave us all the hell alone down here, okay?"
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, if you're going to have a place like this, why does it have to be so bad?
yeah.
And why do we have to be messing with, and then even, I know I keep going back to this, and I get it. Like, I understand that people are programmed with their own stuff. Everybody's got a baggage story. Everybody's got something. Even people that have moderately, nobody's getting out of this world without being traumatized. You can have a pretty good life, pretty good parents, no problems. And guess what? By virtue of what you see going on, you're going to be traumatized with what's around you, or the fact that you can't do anything about it, or you can't help people. But I want to go back to something, because especially in light of so much with the government, or even our own, trying to control things, people trying to control narratives, people, um, just the stuff that goes on, and this is probably going to sound very Rodney King, like, why can't everybody just get along? But I'm tired of the excuses. Look, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that. I make my own mistakes, but you know what? I don't go out of my way to steal money from other people. I don't go out of my way to murder other people. I don't go out of my way to harm other people, to lie about other people. My point is this, uh, if we have to be here, and it's bad enough the things that the entities are doing, but why are we giving them more to feed on? We are. We don't look, the only reason that I can be in front of you and all of these people is because I have a girlfriend whose income is allowing me to live comfortably. Without her, well, wait, this is what's going on for people like me who are disabled, who worked and all the way up from age 14 to 49. You have to fight for your benefits. Took me 3 years, got denied twice. Most people don't get approved, so I'm grateful for that. And I don't want people to feel sorry for me. That's not why I'm saying this. What I'm saying is, this is what I had to go through, and it's easier compared to most. We're not taking care of our elderly. You want to talk about nursing homes? You want to talk about healthcare? We're giving medication to people for illnesses we have no idea whether or not it works. And we have people, other human beings, working in these industries, just passing this stuff out. We have people working for the skilled nursing facilities, not doing their job. This is minor stuff. This isn't even the deep shit that's going on. And my question to people is, what's your excuse? You want to sit there? I mean, how is it saying, well, it's programming or system? Is there any different than saying the devil made me do it for a Christian? Right? Jimmy Swaggart said that when he got caught doing all his stuff back in the day, the televangelist. So my point is like, why does it have to be, it's already bad by design. Just like that detective said, they're already fucking with us. And then we come in and make it so much worse than it already is, because it's already bad, right? When we're born, we already know we're gonna You come into the world screaming, you know you're gonna die. You're gonna face your mortality at some point. That in and of itself is heavy. And then we feel the need to kill each other, beat each other, blast each other, war with each other, steal resources from each other. I guess for me, I mean, I've just never, even as a child, I remember at 10 years old having these exact thoughts. I didn't understand the why. I just didn't understand the why. And that was because I saw a homeless man on the street and watched the average person walk past them. Couldn't offer him food, couldn't offer him clothing, couldn't offer him anything because it's already presumed something. And it doesn't matter to me. Okay, so he's a drug addict or whatever, or maybe he made mistakes. He can't eat. We can't give somebody food. So I guess what I'm saying with this, I'm getting off topic, I realize, but I guess I'm putting this out to all of us into this. Be who you be. If you want to see change in the shithole, then be it. And quit making excuses. I made excuses my whole life for other different things. And right now, the reason I'm doing this podcast is because I feel we're at a critical point where Devin has a daughter. Some of you have children. Jackie has children. If they have to be here, then I want their lives and the world to be better than what it is. And I feel my generation and the ones before have failed miserably. We want to talk about simulations. We lived our own simulated realities in our head because we thought the world was something it wasn't. And I want it to be different for future generations before. And I hope it lessens suffering. I hope people see this and maybe do something different. So I'm sorry, that's off topic maybe, but even within the movie, right? Like, why did they have to go into those realms and create chaos and shit when they could have given those people some really cool things, right?
Yeah.
That's my point with it. Because even in the movie, people still went in and chose to be shitty to the extreme instead of doing empowering things and good things. And I do think we have to kind of take some ownership of that as well. It is a shithole here, but we're not helping matters either. I mean, large portions of us, some of us are doing very good things, but a lot of us aren't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anything else to add to my rant there? Or to the movie about the movie?
I think there usually I'm always on top of it with quotes, but there weren't that many quotes that stuck out to me to put in here.
The biggest one for me was the one when David Hall tells Ashton in the 1990 world that it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Not really a god. I'm just like you, just a bunch of electricity.
Yeah. And that struck me because I've heard people refer to this place, like I said before, as being magnets and mirrors. So that really stuck with me. As far as quotes go, everything else was mostly dialogue. You didn't have a pontificating Morpheus. And, there was a lot of quotes in The Matrix and others, but this movie didn't kind of roll that way. It was more on the interaction between the characters in these worlds. And the dialogue, but if you haven't watched it, I'm sure most people have. Although not everybody, even in '99, checked that movie out when it came out. Everybody was kind of going more for The Matrix.
Yeah, it got overshadowed by The Matrix.
It sure did. So if you haven't seen it, I mean, I personally, out of the three that we've talked about, even with Free City or Free Guy, who was in Free City in the movie, I think this is like better than all of those.
Had a lot of depth to it. A lot of depth.
Yeah, and it makes you think more too, I think so.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for, do you have anything else?
I think I'm good.
So we're wrapping up with the 13th floor. That's sending down the elevator and back down to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Into our own simulated reality, right? So, all right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure being back, and I guess we'll see you next time.
All right, bye, y'all. Take care.
Bye bye.